Seth, we all have flaws. You have flaws, and I have flaws.
Yeah.
And now we start the movie review.
Well, nobody's perfect. I mean, Moses had flaws for goodness sake. So no,
But
no,
he didn't drown a girl at the bottom of a river.
Come on. I mean, you're really gonna hold that against the guy? Come on. These days, those are minor offenses. Give me a break.
In today's politics, everything's a minor.
Everything's a minor. Give me a break here. Yes, we are gonna talk about Chappaquiddick, and I will say this much: my first love is movies.
Yes.
My second love is politics.
Oh, I know. That's why this was such a great movie.
So for me, I was delving right into this motherfucker. I couldn't wait. And the thing about it is that the Kennedys are extremely fascinating.
Yes, they are. I mean, when you heard what Ted Kennedy said as he got older, there will be another Kennedy in the presidency. He said that his whole year, because when he didn't win in 1980, he would always say, there will be another Kennedy in the presidency. I mean, look, with Gillibrand, which I don't know if people watch the state. She's our senator in New York. Well, before her, they put up John F. Kennedy's daughter. They want her to run as senator for New York.
Yes.
And she messed herself up. She said a lot of I know, and she messed herself up, even though she has a PhD. But I don't think she really wanted to get into politics. So it's funny because you never know. We still have some Kennedys in politics. They showed the guy in this recent part of the State of the Union. The guy, he was a Kennedy. I think he was the cousin or great nephew of Robert F. Kennedy, something like that. So it's really interesting, the Kennedy story. This movie really dives into the Kennedys. I thought the father would play more of a role, but as you see in this movie, which is not really a surprise because they did show it in the trailer, the father does have is a stroke patient.
Stroke patient, yes.
But he still has brain function. So even though he can't talk, he's writing stuff on paper, and his connections. It's because of his connections that really saved Ted Kennedy's career.
Yes, and basically what this movie is about, yes, it is about Ted Kennedy, and it's the idea of this takes place literally right before the moon landing. Right before the moon landing, and basically Robert F. Kennedy has gotten killed at this point. He's gotten assassinated. JFK's gone. His other brother's gone.
And this also takes place right where Ted Kennedy never really had his own identity, because he said it about his brother. One brother was courageous, one brother was brave, one brother was brilliant, and he had no identity. And he's a Kennedy, so they're trying to force him to run for president. They did it with John F. K. They did it with Robert. Both were killed. And so they said, okay, it's Ted's turn. And, this was really geared up for him to run in, I think, 1972, which he didn't run because of the Chappaquiddick. They had to let it ride over. And what's amazing, even after Chappaquiddick, and you see what took place in this movie, and they showed it, which is true, everybody knows, he still ran for president in 1980, which shocks the shit out of me.
Yeah, I mean, what's really fascinating about this is the idea of all the manipulation and all of the cover-ups that one has to do to protect the name, to protect the legacy, protect the brand, essentially. And that's because, again, we talk about how, people talk about politics being it's a family thing. We have certain names that are known, and you want to protect that brand. And the idea of basically that everybody is there to protect him because they see their political futures in him, whereas he doesn't exactly see that in himself.
No, he doesn't. And also, he's doing things which you saw in the movie. There's one point, spoiler alert here, where he wears a neck brace, which almost really showed how much of a phony and fake he was. He was trying to play the victim, which he was far from a victim. But actually, his move, it didn't look good in the papers, but what he did, which you would not be able to get airtime, unless you are Trump, you can get the airtime because of ratings, but he got 3 networks to listen to his view, 3 of the top news networks, and he talked for a half hour. You know how hard that is as a politician?
Well, nowadays, yes. Back in the day, it
Well, he was a Kennedy, that's why.
Kennedy, that's why.
But today's day and age, unless you have name brand recognition, if you're Obama, maybe Trump, ex-president, you might get the airtime. But most of the time, if you're just a candidate or running, you're not going to get that type of airtime. And because he got that airtime, he was able to save his career. If he didn't do that, which the movie showed, there's no way he would have saved himself.
This is true. And the idea of basically that, he goes to this sort of lake house or family house in Chappaquiddick, and that he's never been the same since Robert got killed. Everybody tried to force him to run for president after Robert, and of course, he was too affected. He couldn't do it. And he's just never been quite the same. And basically there's one night of just drinking and everything like that. And he accidentally goes the wrong direction in a car with one of the staff members that works for him and works for the Kennedy family, and basically gets her killed.
Yeah, and what it shows in the movie, which if you know about Chappaquiddick, which most people do, as a police officer said in the movie, is if he called within a half hour, reported it within a half hour, she would have survived. He called his friends up to help him, pretty much do the cover up. But if he called, because you see parts of the movie where she's struggling, she's trying to breathe, and there's a diver. The movie said if she was called in the first half hour, we would have been able to save her life, because when she died, she was leaning up, gasping for air as the car kept slowly sinking, so she couldn't, there was no more air left. But if they called in the first half hour. So in this way, I say he really did. This should have been manslaughter. And because it shows the Kennedys, he knew the district attorney, he knew this person, he knew the sheriff, he knew everybody. Everybody knew him because that's how powerful a political family is.
Yes.
And because he knew the cop and knew the sheriff, and they approached him as senator, out of professionalism, he got away because of the people he knew. I think if a president did this day and age, I don't think he could get away with it.
It's tough to say what you can and can't get away with anymore. I mean, you would have thought back in the day you couldn't get away with this, but you do. I think also you have modern technology today versus then that I think would probably hurt the person more. In this case, they didn't have that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they didn't have social media or any of that.
So they didn't have that, and that was to the benefit of him. I will say this. I think the acting's fantastic in the movie. I think Jason Clarke does a really fantastic job as Ted Kennedy.
And I think the girl, I forgot her name, the girl that was killed.
Kate Mara.
Kate Mara, which I've seen her in a few things, not a lot, but I thought she was brilliant in the movie.
Yes.
And then who played the best role? I think you said...
Ed Helms.
Which show did he come from?
He came from The Office.
Yeah, I mean, he played such a serious role. He was so brilliant in this movie. He was the guy who was John Gorgon, right?
Yes, he was basically the cousin.
The cousin, they adopted him as a brother. He had no relations to the Kennedy family, no blood ties or anything,
Yeah.
And I thought he was brilliant in the movie, but even he stepped away from the Kennedys. Even said at the end of the movie, he's still estranged from the Kennedys. He has a private life. After this, he was done. He said, I can't be part of this.
No, yeah, and he was not a part of it ever again. It's very interesting. Probably that guy could probably tell you stories like you wouldn't believe.
Well, I think he's probably forced to keep his mouth shut. I'm sure he signed.
I'm sure
he signed contracts where he can't open his mouth
at all or something. I mean, do I think that Ted Kennedy is a bad guy? No, I don't think Ted Kennedy's a bad guy.
I never really liked Ted Kennedy, not because of this, but his policies. I didn't like his policies. But one thing I will say, and I'm not going to mention my politics because we're not talking about that.
Sure.
But I will say what he is credited for is it's because he was such a strong force in the Senate when he was alive. He's the one who got Obama. He died before it got put through, but he was the one who pushed for Obamacare's healthcare plan.
He was one of the big forces of it.
He was the big forces. He got the other senators and congressmen to get together and really push the bill. It was his, as he's called, the lion, and really get them together. So he was a very strong senator. Even though in this movie they showed him as weak and they showed him as he didn't know his identity, I think after this, he found his identity, he found his voice, and he became one of the most powerful senators. Wrote a lot of legislation. I don't like a lot of it, but wrote a lot of legislation and was a very powerful senator. And presidents did look for him. I mean, he was really a very powerful senator. And I don't know why he didn't win in 1980. I think it was because of this. I think if Chappaquiddick didn't happen, he would have been president.
I think so too. It was a mistake that people make mistakes all the time, and this was a big one in his life. And the idea that that basically it's kind of, it's not said in the movie, but it's almost kind of hinted at that maybe he had a relationship with this woman.
And people today still think that there was an affair going on. But Ted Kennedy was out of the few Kennedys, because most of the Kennedys, Robert didn't. Robert was very committed. He had 11 children with his wife. John F. Kennedy did cheat on his wife. But Ted Kennedy, I think, was always faithful to his wife. He really loved his wife. She supported him. She hated him for a period of time. You saw it in the movie.
I saw it in the movie.
At Chappaquiddick, she really was pissed off. But I think there was love there. And I don't think he was a cheater. I think he was very committed. I don't think there was a relationship. I think she just was a friend. And I think he felt horrible.
He felt horrible. And the idea that this was really true, the idea of the Boiler Room Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a true thing. These certain group of girls that worked for the Kennedy family, and
they worked for Robert F. Kennedy's and John F. Kennedy's campaign.
Yes, and the fact that they were loyal to the family and to the name, and basically, they would go the extra mile if something needed covering up. They would help that. They would help anything with the name because they were considered family.
But what the thing is, you have to understand about the cover-up, too. Because there's parts of the movie where if this happened this day and age, this would be major corruption. Sure. Not only did they cover up, when you have a statement from the guy who committed the crime, that's usually released within hours, not days.
Sure.
They went to the house after this happened, several days after. Normally you go to the house hours after, not days.
Yeah.
When they went to the house, they did the best cover up they could, but he lied and said, I didn't drink. Look at the garbage pail. They found a bottle of alcohol. So the thing is that, there was so much cover up here. And I said, when you're a strong political figure, and I think that's what the dynamic was of the movie. They wanted to show Ted Kennedy. I mean, we see Ted Kennedy as this lion, this powerful Senate leader. He worked with, Democrats. But I think this movie showed him in a different light, that he was guilty. He knew he was guilty, but he also knew he had to save his career. And so he was in a tough thing. There was a point in the movie where he was going to resign, remember?
Yes, there was a point.
But he did what he had to do to save his career, which was kind of, a little bit wrong of him. The one thing I didn't like what they did, and I don't know how they got away with this, they did not give the body to the parents right away. They waited 3 days to give the body to the parents. Now, honestly, I don't know why the parents didn't revolt and get angry. If my kid dies, my sister dies, my parents dies, I'm getting the body within hours. I'm not going to wait days.
Again, there's a lot of loyalty to the Kennedy family, and even the parents they
thought he was innocent. They thought they thought it was just a mistake. It was just a mistake. They weren't even angry at him. They let him come to the funeral, for Christ's sake. They didn't have to let him go to the funeral, and they let him go to the funeral.
They let him come to the funeral, and they were incredibly nice to the guy. And, again, I do feel the man's sincerity. I do feel that he made a real honest mistake, and it cost him a lot. I mean, I'm friends and family at times. The presidency, everything like that. I mean, again, I do want to say this. Based on true stories, there is a part of fabrication in here. So,
but I thought because this was a true story, excellent movie.
It's an absolutely excellent movie. And you notice that, of course, this happened, decades and decades ago. And it's only now that we're getting the story, and I believe we're getting the story now because, of course, Ted Kennedy is long past gone now, and I believe that they're able to tell this story now where I don't think even the Kennedy family would would sue or go against this, because I feel like they're like, okay, it's long past now. I don't think it's gonna hurt us or anything to have this out there. That's what I believe. I mean, I don't think that it's gonna be a big like a scandal now or something decades later. But I mean, again, political families, whether we're talking about the Kennedys or the Bush family, Clintons, you name it, there's a certain amount of secrecy, there's a certain amount of protection. And the Kennedys might have been the first family to start it all.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is no surprise to me. And again, I thought there was a lot of great, wonderful moments in this movie. Whether they are talking about the moon landing or talking about this incident versus like the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, there was a lot of
comparisons to it, the scandals, everything like that. I thought it was really fascinating. And God knows there's probably more stories in the Kennedy family that are I'm not sure like this, but I'm sure that are just as shocking. I don't know if we'll ever get some like this.
I like how it kept to the times. The cars they used, the pay phones, the couches, the clothing.
Yes.
It was really stuck to the times in 1969, 1970. They really showed that it was very old-time movie. There was no modernity. It showed the clothing, the dress, the haircuts, everything, even the girls' haircuts, the boiler girls. It showed everything, how it was really, and how they replicated things, I think was really good. I don't know if it was the same area or if it was a set, but the bridge, they showed the bridge, the scenes, the movie, I think they tried to copy how it happened originally. The cottage house, I think the house they had, they didn't try to modernize everything. They tried to make it very how it was.
Yes, I like that a lot. I really enjoyed that. And I actually really enjoyed at the end they showed footage from back in the day of them actually interviewing
Ted Kennedy.
Interviewing Ted Kennedy, but actually interviewing people about them watching the actual broadcast, and that was real. That was not made up. That
it was showing. Yes, I would vote for him. Oh, he's not a bad guy. And he really won the heart of elections. It was really, I think, a very well done movie. There's certain things I don't like about the movie. I will say, I think at certain times it was a little slow for me.
I did, and you know what? For me, I think thank you for saying that, because there was moments where I almost felt like I was feeling its length, even though it's only like a little over an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I originally told Seth, I think this movie's going to be too short. I really think this movie, not to say it was too long, but there were some parts that were just boring. I know they wanted to show the true depiction, but I don't think certain parts of the movies you needed.
No.
I think there was a lot of scenes that you really could have taken out of the movie. I don't think you really needed some of these scenes.
No, you could have taken some out. I think it still would have been effective. And again, like I said, I felt its length at times. I was like wondering to myself, not that when it was going to end, but I was like thinking, okay, the story seems to be wrapping up here, and they're continuing it. Again, I think the performances hold it up. I think the fascination with the story, I think, is what kept me interested. It's not a bad movie. Is it the best political type of film that's out there? No, there's a heck of a lot more that's much better than this film. But I thought for a story that I'm hearing pretty much for the first time, I thought it was absolutely really fantastic. And yeah, I was actually a real big fan of just finding out about this stuff, and of course being a sort of an admirer of the Kennedy family in some ways definitely opened my eyes to it. So what are your final thoughts and grade rating on Chappaquiddick?
I would have to say the acting was phenomenal in this movie. Jason Clarke, Michael Helms, really excellent. I would have to say the directing was great. I would have to say the setting, where the scenery and the setting was great. But because it was a little bit boring at times, a little dragged at times, I'd have to say I would give this a solid B+.
Okay, like I said, I really do enjoy the movie, and the performances alone are definitely worth it to check out. As far as the other sort of points in the movie, yeah, it did kind of drag a little bit, and, the period stuff is nice. Overall, like I said, I think there's better movies that tell a better story politically.
That's the thing. If you compare it to other political movies, that's another reason I'm giving it a B plus, because I've seen other better political movies.
I'm gonna give it a flat C.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a flat C. It's gonna be a little lower, but it is definitely worth it to check out if you like political films, if you like sort of more political intrigue stories, true stories about the Kennedy family.
If you're a Kennedy fan, if you're a political fan, I think it's a good movie to see. But I wouldn't rush to go to the movie theater to see it. I definitely think this is going to be on HBO in a few months, or Showtime, or Cinemax. So I think you can catch it on one of those channels and still enjoy it.
Yes.
I think you can still enjoy it. So, I mean, I think it's good to kind of watch if you're into politics, because it kind of, it's a good dynamic with what's happening now with political scandals,
Absolutely. And by all means, this is not the first political scandal movie that's ever come out, and it certainly won't be the last. Trust me. So, yeah, you'll actually, if I do ever, not saying I have done it, but if I ever, need to cover something up, like a dead body or
I
something,
would cover it up.
You would?
I would cover it up.
I didn't think you'd give me that answer. Wow.
Well, as long as we're not doing it tonight, because, it's a little bit too late tonight.
Well, I was hoping for tonight's shit.
No.
Okay, damn. Okay. Well, I'm gonna get on that, guys, because I may have done some really bad things, but don't worry about me. He's got me covered. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up, and we will be back next time for another movie review with less suggestions of cover-ups, because the fact that you agreed to that tells me some really interesting things about you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. All right, guys. Take care.